beloved, how clearly I see.
Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with New York-based jazz vocalist Naama Gheber. She opened up about her latest 2020 CD called Dearly Beloved. This album was inspired by the emotionally direct compositions of Rodgers and Hart, Fields and Hugh, Cole Porter, and other great composers and lyricists of the 1930s and 40s. She was born to aspiring scientists, and when she was 4 years old, she relocated to Baltimore, Maryland. Over the years, she has performed across Europe and celebrated festivals and jazz clubs, and we happened to speak to her right when the COVID-19 quarantine was beginning. So please get to know her and dig this interview, my friends.
Are you in the middle of Manhattan?
Yeah.
Okay,
in the West
all right.
Village, yeah.
Which is where I guess everything's been kind of getting ramped up quite a bit.
That's what they say. Streets are empty as far as I know from my short walks. Yeah, but hanging in there. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's all we can do.
Exactly. How are you guys doing over there?
Oh, it's kind of the same thing. They just put out an order the other day, well, actually yesterday, because there's been enough businesses that have been opened that have been getting people outside that they're closing everything down to necessities, and there's an actual executive order that will go into effect on Tuesday. So.
Oh, I see. Yeah. You guys are a little behind us, but right.
Yeah, and I think, New York and even in California, there's going to be denser areas that are going to have higher numbers. Yeah, right. So, but they don't want that to happen here, so I think that everybody's following that lead. And
That's great.
Yeah. So.
I mean, it's not great, but it's good that people are taking measures.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Right.
But I think now is probably a pretty good time to get our minds off of things, to talk about music while...
Definitely, yes. Yeah.
So,
I totally agree.
Yeah, without a doubt. So, Dearly Beloved, it's a great album. Talk to me a little bit about what was your vision with this project?
My vision. First of all, it's my debut album, which is I had a vision, but I was also very unsure what I should expect of the final outcome, because I've never done this before. But I knew a few things. I knew that I wanted a killing band. I knew that I wanted to record some of the songs that I am most connected to musically, but also to the story that they tell. And I knew that I wanted to create some kind of vibe that was specific to me, that was more, I'm sure many jazz listeners have heard so many, of the same standard being recorded over the years. So I wanted to find a way to make it more authentic, but also what I love. No, I didn't want to reinvent the wheel with it. So it was a hard thing to try to figure out to do. But that was my goal with it. I think so. That was basically I guess it was three things. It was songs that I loved, story of, great musicians, and a great a vibe, to create some kind of vibe that was special to me.
And to have something that turned out so well for your debut has to just feel wonderful.
Thank you for saying that. It's still unbelievable that I still can't really believe it when I listen to the songs and see the actual album. It's great. So. It's
right
great,
on.
but it was definitely, though, a lot of it was first of all the great musicians, Steve Nelson, who is just an unbelievable musician, and the great Ray Gallen, who also helped a lot with the arrangements, and David Wong and Aaron Kimmel. They're just all so great. And they were really, really good in executing this vibe that I wanted without me even saying much. They just knew it, So that's really a lot of it.
Right on. So talk to me a little bit about your parents are scientists. Talk to me about where you were born and raised prior to coming to Baltimore.
So I was born and I was also raised there after I came back to Baltimore. It's Be'er Sheva. It's a city in the desert. It's called the Negev desert in Israel. In Israeli standards, it's very far away from the center of. It's an hour away from Tel Aviv, which for us is a lot. Yeah, my parents just worked there. They're both scientists in the university over there, and I grew up over there. I wasn't exposed. I mean, my dad was always very much into music, and so was my mom. There was a lot of music going around the house, but Be'er Sheva isn't exactly a city that's very jazz-oriented at all, actually. So that only came later in my life. But when I was 4, we moved to Baltimore, and I was raised in the States for 4 years, which is something I think that helped a lot with my, the American culture that kind of I always felt was a part of me, even though I'm not really American. And I always kind of knew that I would return somewhere or another. So, but I did spend most of my life in Be'er Sheva city, which is, again, the Israeli city in the desert.
Right on. So talk to me a little bit about early jazz that you got into and when that happened for you.
It was very mysterious. I mean, it was almost coincidental. I had received a gift from my grandparents when I was 18, which I decided to use. It was money, and I decided to use that towards singing lessons. And, of course, the best teachers were in Tel Aviv, and I managed to study with this really great singing legend in Israel. Her name is Ricky Gal. And it was crazy because I would take trips on the bus after school to go study with her. And at some point, she was like, "Hey, do you sing in English as well?" And I was like, "Yeah." And we worked on Hit the Road Jack, Ray Charles. And she was like, "Wow, you should be singing in English. What do you think about jazz?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I don't know much about jazz." But somehow later I kind of got into this guitarist who was studying jazz, who wanted me to sing in his recital, and I learned Summertime. And I think just probably because I didn't have an Israeli accent, people were impressed by how American I sounded, and I was singing these songs, and I somehow kind of got into singing jazz. And we actually formed a band, and I performed in a few places in my hometown, which I think have never had jazz bands really perform there. But then when I was after I graduated, I had to go to the Army, and I basically stopped everything for 3 years until I visited jazz, and this time really professionally when I was 21.
What was the first live jazz show that you saw that really made you think, "Man, this is what I want to do"?
I was at the Red Sea Festival in 2009, which takes place in the southern city of Eilat in Israel. Generally a really good festival, and I saw Diddy Bridgewater, which is a pretty cool show to watch, I think, as a first. And I was like, wow, okay, this is great, and I really would want to be on that stage one day. I guess that was it, yeah.
When you did finally get to New York and you started performing, what was it like to get kind of woven into the biggest jazz scene on the planet? How did that happen, and kind of the story of that coming to New York?
My goal was New York, and that was something that I realized pretty fast pretty close to moving here, was that, school was cool, and it was a way for me to get a visa to be able to be here. And of course I learned a lot, but I was kind of very fixated on the scene, knowing that, realizing how amazing it is in the city that you can basically just walk 5 minutes in between clubs and see the greatest artists perform every night, so I kind of made that my thing. I just started hanging out a lot. Tried to sing at all the sessions that I could. And while doing that, I also tried to get gigs. And when I finally got a gig that paid enough to call musicians on the scene, I just started calling people that I like their playing, regardless of, you know, if it was appropriate for me to be playing with them or not. And that's how I kind of got to know people. And I learned so much from playing with them. So I think that was how I started out, and I basically just kept doing it, just going out, and, you know. And I remember whenever I would get myself to sing at a session, because it's not always easy to do, I would always say, okay, if I sang a song tonight, then my night has been made. Like, and I would go home with a good feeling that another day passed and I did something that I was set out to do, you know. So I kind of put small goals, or, you know, today I'm going to ask this person to play in my next gig, which was, you know, something that I usually had to have kind of courage for. But yeah, that's kind of how I did it.
Right on.
And, like, you know, it's all about how long it's funny about New York, and what I realize now, and people were saying all the time, is that really if you're around enough and you're not defeated by it's very hard to be surrounded with amazing people and see amazing, you know, singers and people who are so much better than you all the time. If you're able to, like, not be discouraged, but to take that as an inspiration, and also, you know, be okay and forgiving toward yourself. If there's a day where you feel really bad about yourself, that's also fine. But, you know, if you're able to wake up the following morning and get up and practice and go out and play, then it's kind of a given that it will work.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
You just have to do it more, you know, practice more. So, I mean, that's always been kind of my, I don't know, the way I roll. And I think that's how I got to know all these people and eventually recorded this album with these great musicians.
So, what do you like best about being a professional musician?
First of all, I look forward to working. I don't know how many people can say that don't, you know, like, I anticipate gigs. As I grow older and I have more friends who have real jobs, I realize how much that's great and priceless. And the second thing is, as a vocalist especially, I think the connection with the audience when it happens, it doesn't happen always, but the more I do this, the better rooms I get to play, and the more people, you know, come out to actually hear me, the more amazing I find it is to, you know, to actually be present in these moments where you create something that touches, you know, that actually touches people and makes them also experience an emotional experience. And to be able to do that, have the power to do that, and also experience it myself, you know, coming back from the audience is really the best thing that happens to me when it does. And, you know, I hope that as I keep doing this, it will happen more and more, because it's really an amazing, amazing feeling.
So if you could get into a time machine and go back and see a show and maybe meet the musician after the show, who would that be? Where would you go?
Oh, my God. That's such a hard question. What a hard question. I'm, like, thinking about everybody. The first person who popped into my head was Ella. Just because I always wonder about, I listen to a lot of live shows of hers, and they've talked about her stage fright a lot. And I guess I'm just really curious, because when I hear, you know, what she does, everything always sounds so flawless. Like, there's never a wrong note or a hiccup or anything. Everything is just so clear and great all the time that I just wonder, like, how it would be to actually see her on stage and to actually be able to to ask her what really goes on in her head, or she's, performing that flawlessly.
Yeah, right on. So, why do you love jazz?
Wow. Why do I love jazz? I don't really have an option not to. It's kind of like just connected to me at the point where I started like listening to it, and now I can't not be drawn to it and not cry, because when it's beautiful or touching, and not dance when it's swinging, it's just what it does to my soul. You can't not love something that does that to you. That's, I don't know if that's a good answer, but I think
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a great answer. And my next question to you is this. You have that chance to get out on the road, and let's say you come to Kansas City and you play at one of our clubs off 18th and Vine. What's the jazz show? What's the jazz show that you would put on? What's that going to sound like? What are you going to give the crowd?
What am I going to give the crowd? When is this happening? Is this like next, or like when this coronavirus is over?
Yeah. Well, when the cloud is lifted.
Well, yeah. Well, right now I'm kind of, or at least the shows I had planned. I'm actually supposed to be in Europe right now. Was mostly music from Dearly Beloved, but I do have some fun stuff that I do on shows that I didn't do while recording. I have a lot of fun facts about the songs that I sing, and also some swinging tunes that I like to teach the audience when I perform. So it would be a mixture of what you can hear on the album, plus some stuff. First of all, and I recorded the album like a year ago, so there's been some tunes that I've fallen in love with since that I like to incorporate now in my shows as well.
Right on. I think as we all live through this virus and the quarantining and everything that we're going through, I think the only real hopeful thing to think about at this point is that what's going to happen when we get to go out and live our lives the way we did before. And my question to you is this. What are you hoping happens to people that come to see live jazz? Are you hoping for a better appreciation, larger crowds? What do you hope will happen because of this?
I think it's crazy, how, especially us in live music, how a lot of us were very critical and angry about the place, the world is going, where everything is virtual, nobody cares about, live music, everybody's on their phones all the time. And it's funny that this happened now, because it's brought us into a point where there's no other choice. And in a way, I hope that maybe one of the good things that will come out of this, besides the fact that we're all shedding now at our homes as musicians, and we don't have any excuse to not practice, is that people will really want human contact, and they'll want to see a live show, and they'll want to feel those vibrations and that vibe that can only be created in a face-to-face encounter. Maybe I'm hoping that people will actually crave that a lot more than they have before. Maybe that's one of the good things that could come out of all of this.
That's a great realization. That's exactly the answer that I don't think I knew was going to happen, but was hopeful would be a part of this, because I think it's very key to this process. And thank you for taking some time out today. I guess I do have one more question for you. One last thing that's more personal, that gets kind of the essence of you. Everyone has a perception of you. Your family, your friends, your fans, but you're living your life. Who do you think you are? What's your perception of who you are?
The point in my eyes of being an artist is to be able to bring yourself to the stage. So I hope that it's the same thing. I would probably, if it was ideal, I would answer the same answer to both questions. But I think or at least I try to be honest as a person and also as an artist. And I mean, yeah, I mean that's something that I am. I sometimes pay prices for it, and sometimes I'm able to touch people because of it. So I definitely say I'm an honest person who really tries to bring truth, whether it's to my relationships or to my music, to my shows.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's a great answer. That's a wonderful
Thank
answer.
you.
Thank you for taking some time out in this very odd time in our world to talk about your music and the new album. Good luck with everything.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity too. I mean, it's really been great to talk about some great stuff for for a change. So thank you.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest singers and musicians in New York, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Naama for her time, music, and stories. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.